The anchor of the soul. Man's righteousness and God's righteousness. If you are righteous, what do you give him? Or what does he receive from your hand? Your wickedness affects a man such as you, and your righteousness a son of man. People work hard to build up their store of righteousness, but such righteousness has nothing to do with God. At the time of Jesus, the large majority of the Jews even thought the best way for them to serve God was by killing Jesus. Brethren, my heart's desire and prayer to God for Israel is that they may be saved. For I bear them witness that they have a zeal for God, but not according to knowledge. For they, being ignorant of God's righteousness and seeking to establish their own righteousness, have not submitted to the righteousness of God. They had a zeal for God, but in their fervor they did not consider the righteousness of God. They advocated their own righteousness and did not submit to God's righteousness. In doing this, they ended up carrying out actions that had nothing to do with God's righteousness. Just because a person has been attending church for a long time or performs duties in his church, it does not mean that God is satisfied with him. If these were the things that satisfy God, he would have demanded them. But even if you search through the entire Bible, you will not find a single passage in which God makes such demands. The Bible says, "There is none righteous, no, not one." These words best describe man's true situation before God. Of course, the righteousness of man seems great in man's eyes, but in God's eyes, man's righteousness is just like filthy rags. But we are all like an unclean thing, and all our righteousnesses are like filthy rags. We all fade as a leaf, and our iniquities, like the wind, have taken us away. In order to become a person who is worthy before God, you must put on the wedding garment that God has prepared for you. But when the king came in to see the guests, he saw a man there who did not have on a wedding garment. So he said to him, "Friend, how did you come in here without a wedding garment?" And he was speechless. Then the king said to the servants, "Bind him hand and foot, take him away, and cast him into outer darkness. There will be weeping and gnashing of teeth." As you can see from this passage, anyone who does not put on the wedding garment God provides cannot participate in this wedding feast in heaven. What is this wedding garment? Some people drape themselves in wedding garments they have made for themselves and parade around in them proudly. For some, this wedding garment may be confidence in the fact that they attended Sunday school from a very young age. For others, it may be pride in the fact that they began attending church when they were still inside their mother's womb. To such people, however, God will say, "I never knew you. Depart from me, you that practice lawlessness." The true wedding garment that God has prepared is God's righteousness. The only way anyone can go to heaven is by putting on God's righteousness. Let's take a look at the example of the two criminals who were crucified beside Jesus. One of the two reviled Jesus, saying, "If you are the Christ, save yourself and us." But the other criminal scolded the first one, saying, "Do you not even fear God, seeing you are under the same condemnation? And we indeed justly, for we receive the due reward of our deeds, but this man has done nothing wrong." Then he implored Jesus, saying, "Lord, remember me when you come into your kingdom." To this Jesus replied, "Today you will be with me in paradise." This man was forgiven for his sins as he hung dying on the cross. He had never been to church for a prayer meeting, and he had never attended a revival meeting. He was saved the moment his heart turned to Jesus. As he stood at death's door, he put on the wedding garment that God had provided. Have you put on this wedding garment?